Hello everyone, this is Svetlana from Marco 7th. Thank you all for attending today's webinar, The Future of Business Incorporating AI and Hyper-Intelligent Automation Solutions, brought to you in partnership with Brillio. Before we begin, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. As you can see, at the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets you can use. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit them through the Q&A widget. We will try to answer as many as possible during the webinar, but if a fuller answer is needed or we run out of time, we'll make sure to follow up with you in a separate email after the webinar. A copy of today's slide deck and additional help materials are available in the resource list. We encourage you to download any resources or bookmark any links you may find useful. For the best viewing experience, we recommend using a wired internet connection and closing any programs or browser sessions running in the background. You can find additional answers to some common technical issues located in the Help widget at the bottom of your screen. Please expect an email within 2 hours after the webinar with links to download the webinar slides and recording. At this point, I'd like to briefly introduce you to our moderator and host of the webinar, Saurabh Das, Vice President, Product and Platform Engineering at Brillio. Saurabh, it is over to you now. Saurabh, I'm afraid you're on mute.
Apologies. So good morning, everybody. I'm super stoked to host this panel discussion on hyperintelligence and automation. Little bit of context why we chose this topic and thought that it'll be extremely useful for all of us to hear the views of different panelists is if you think about it, step back and think about it. I'm gonna share some data from McKinsey, which talks about productivity through each of the industry revolution. If you think about the invention of steam engine, the productivity gains then made was 0.3%. Early robotics gave us 0.4% as an index. Information technology gave us 0.6. But the era we live in, using hyper-intelligent automation, data, AI, ML, we are expected to make gains of 1.6%, which is essentially the sum total of all the gains that have been made so far. No pressure, and that's the future of business using the power of data, AI, ML, and overall making enterprises intelligent. I think no better topic to hear our panelists' view how they have been progressing their charters in service of making enterprises more intelligent. What we're going to cover today is a little bit of introduction to who we are, which is I'm representing Brillio, and pleasure to host this forum. And we are based we are headquartered in the Valley. We were founded in 2014, which gives us the advantage of being digitally native, focusing on very purposeful canvas of technologies to solve today's problem. Our purpose and our core is founded on turning business and technology disruption into competitive advantage for our clients. We work with Fortune 1000 clients. Globally present, we are roughly 4,200 consultant engineers, thinkers, doers spread across the globe with a large footprint in APAC. And Australia as a market is big, which is a focus area for us. We are rapidly growing, and this is also a place where we have the panelists talking about the geography and the market. In terms of our service catalog, we focus on three vectors of change, which is reimagining the role of technology in today's business, looking at business operating models which are far more platform and product based, looking at the modernization of enterprise architecture to respond to business far faster, and finally, the operating models needed today to speed up the time to value by becoming far more agile as an organization. In service of that, we focus on product and platforms. We focus on the latest and greatest data problems to solve them both from the consumer and operational perspective. Cloud as a net new operating system for enterprises, and the great focus on consumer experience, because at the end of the day, having the right service design for your offering becomes critical for your differentiation. With that, I'm going to introduce the panel with us, and I would request the panelists to, as I go around, call their names to introduce themselves. Siva, I'm going to start with you. Would love if you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Saurabh. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Siva. I lead the AI and automation team at Telstra, enabling the organization to achieve digital leadership and adopt AI at scale for the 3 years I have been with them. With my vast experience in data science across industries and academia, I bring subject matter expertise to solve problems relating to business challenges and opportunities, and also I run the innovation ecosystem here at Telstra. My focus areas have been talent development, building relationships with stakeholders across the organization, enabling cross-functional collaboration, which I believe are the foundations of a successful digital transformation journey for a company. So I look forward to discussing ideas and sharing experiences with this panel today.
Thank you, Siva.
Over to you, Saurabh.
Thank you, Siva. Abhinav, if you may.
Thank you, Saurabh. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Abhinav. I'm the platform owner for robotics and AI at AMP. And as a platform owner, my focus has been to build the business and run it as a self-funded business and provide services across AMP, including AMP Bank, AMP Capital, and as well as group technology. So today I'm here to share my experience. I've been in robotics and automation since last 6 years here in Australia, worked with across different number of clients. And my background has been in business intelligence and data analytics. So what I bring on table is a mix of data, business intelligence, robotics and AI experience, and really sharing some of the insights, what I have experienced, some of the lessons learned, as well as from the operating model and the program delivery perspective, how to run it like a sustainable business for long term. And yeah, looking forward to have a conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhinav. Pleasure having you here. Matt.
Thanks, Saurabh, and welcome everybody. I'm really delighted to be participating in the session today with Brillio, our partner. So I'm from ServiceNow, and many of you in the audience, I hope, know who ServiceNow are. I know that we've been working with Abhinav and Siva and their organisations across Australia and New Zealand, but ServiceNow in this region in particular, in Australia and New Zealand, has grown from strength to strength in the last 8 to 10 years. And we like to think that we make the world work better with our platform. Those of you that probably do know ServiceNow probably associate ServiceNow with optimization of IT processes, with our IT service management, IT operations management capabilities. But the platform is so much more than that these days. And throughout today's session, hopefully I'll give you some insights into what ServiceNow is doing in terms of innovation around our AI capabilities and how we're making customer experience and employee experience more meaningful for everyone across our customer base. So looking forward to the conversation and thanks for having me, Saurabh.
Thank you so much, Matt. And I'm Saurabh Das. I head the product and platform practice at Brillio globally. And it's super stoked to be here. So let's begin. So, to my dear panelists, like the power of hyper-intelligent platforms and AI has proven to be transformational for most of the enterprises, and also the pivot for enterprises to become more intelligent, not just for their workforce, but for their end consumers as well. Yet many companies are yet to leverage the power fully, and only fractional of value have been captured. And this goes back to sharper business focus, sharper prioritization. So, Siva, I'm going to start with you. Try to understand from your lens that as a practitioner, what business priorities and transformational imperatives you're carrying in your organization. Would love to hear your insights on that.
Thank you, Saurabh. So one of our key business priorities here at Telstra is to create all digital experiences and have AI and intelligence embedded in everything we do. So to achieve this, we are trying to build our digital leadership with a focus on digital mindsets. For example, when we underwent the recent agile transformation across the organization, the key focus area was to break down silos that existed within the organization and provide transparency and shared vision. So the expectation is that it will enable us with the capability to provide consistent and exceptional customer experiences across all channels with a drive to adopt data and AI driven apps and digital tools that is both customer facing but also internally within the organization. So one of the important values at Telstra is we make it simple. And as an AI and automation team, this value is at the heart of our team's operating model. So as an example, improving the customer experience and placing orders, which is a very common thing that happens, and going through the activation process is an area where we are simplifying using intelligent automation, in processing and verifying and validating and subsequently activating their connections so that they have the best and more simplified experience to face. Yeah.
Thank you, Siva, and love the metaphor of making it simple because that's what the business needs, and not more technology jargon. So love that. Abhinav, there is a lot of use cases, a lot of prioritization that has happened in the financial market, but would love to hear the same views that what are the business priorities and imperatives that you are pursuing?
Sure. I think from my perspective and what I have experienced is that one of the topmost business priority for the businesses is simplification, and simplification definitely to help and enable the customer service and process efficiency. So, for example, in our organization, we are doing end-to-end customer journey review of what the process looks like, right from the point of initial interaction with the customer, as well as to the point of our products and services selling to the customer. So that involves review of the current process, modifying the process, simplifying it, and if required, maybe even convert that into a digital process, and then use the technologies and tool sets to really enable that. And that's where hyper-automation comes into play, because hyper-automation is a combination of different technologies to be used in the ecosystem to solve the business problem. But the second priority where we have been working, and I've seen it across different organizations, is around the governance and operating model. So very much enabling the hyper-automation, but then maintaining it and sustaining it for long-term conversation with the business, how we are going to manage it so that there is no single point of failure, as well as something that can be reduced from the incident management and run and support perspective. So that's very much important in terms of the daily operations.
A bit of you're still there? Sorry, Svetlana, can I just check for audio that?
Saurabh, Svetlana is speaking. I believe Abhinav is having some technical issues with internet. Please continue with other speakers and we will make sure he is back. Thank you.
Sure. But just to paraphrase for those who did not hear that, sorry for the glitch, but I think Abhinav's and AMP's focus area on customer journey transformation spot on in terms of looking at your consumer, evolving your product and services accordingly, but more so also managing the backstage, which is needed to enable that, which is through the right operating model, was what Abhinav was calling out. With that, I'm going to move over to Matt. Matt, uh, with your set of clients in ServiceNow, both in ANZ and globally, the same question, and you will have a bird's eye view of the different business priorities organizations are pursuing. So, would love to hear your take on what kind of priorities that you come across very often.
Certainly, Saurabh, and thanks for the question. I think it's it's fascinating what's happening in the market at the moment. We're fortunate enough to have close to 1,000 customers across Australia and New Zealand using the ServiceNow platform today, and we've got thousands more globally. We're also really proud of the fact that ServiceNow customers renew their annual subscriptions with us at about 98 or 99%, which is obviously an industry-leading benchmark. And the reason our customers renew with us is that they're clearly getting value from the platform, but that value can only be unlocked when our customers start to adopt the platform in more meaningful ways. So I mentioned in my introduction that many organizations invested in ServiceNow initially to modernize and optimize their IT environment. And that's an incredibly important initiative. And it really is the heart and lungs of many organizations, that IT operating model. So our platform's done incredibly well to optimize that for many of our customers. But I think that value, where you start to really unlock value, particularly with what we've seen in the disruption in the world over the last 2 to 3 years, is when you can start taking that bulletproof platform that you've created, that modernization of the IT environment, and start to use that as an asset in other parts of the business, whether that's in finance or in human resources, in your interactions with your customers, in your interactions with your other key stakeholders. And we've seen some amazing examples of customers innovating on the ServiceNow platform and doing things that remove that complexity. I think just before Abhinav got cut off, he talked about creating a simpler environment, a less complex environment. And with a good example of that that we have locally is a long-term ServiceNow client in Officeworks who did what I described up front around 3 to 4 years ago. They call it the ERP of their IT environment, the ServiceNow platform. They implemented the platform to ensure their IT was operating really well. And now they've taken the ServiceNow platform and given it to their employees in their retail environments so they can be so much more efficient with what they do by reducing a lot of paper-based processes, engaging with their customers more meaningfully, and using the ServiceNow using ServiceNow to its full potential.
Thank you so much, Matt, and lovely to hear the views from all of you. I picked a few thematics for myself. I think simplification was a very powerful theme, that you have to make it simple for the business, customer journey transformation, and Matt, to your point, focusing on different user groups, whether it's HR, your end consumers, that's where the potential of uncovering a lot of rich use cases are. I'm going to segue to the next question I had for all of you. Is there is a lot of usage of technology capabilities under the ambit of hyper intelligent automation, data, AI, ML, platforms which are low code, no code, to simply create and weave ecosystems very quickly. It can be a maze, but what I would like to focus on is how are we using technology? What are some of the rich use cases that we are seeing? And one of the observations that we have is if the last decade was very, very focused on creating optimization, productivity levers, but I think what we are seeing is hyper-intelligent automation can also fuel net new business model, net new revenue channels. So question for you, Siva, I'll start with you, that what are some of the rich, exciting problem statement use cases that you are solving that we can learn from? And also maybe just based on the space you are in, what's happening in the telco sector? Siva, if you're speaking, you're probably on mute. If you
Sorry. Yeah, so everywhere we keep hearing from organizations, about digital and data transformations. They're going through that journey. Now, it's been there for a while now, but we all ask ourselves, why has it not been realized to its full potential? Now, it is mostly because of the size and the scale of the transformation that these companies go through, and most companies, in addition to providing value for its customers and stakeholders, they also want most value for their buck that they are investing in. So the question becomes, how can we deliver more with less? So that is where it is vital to improve productivity and figure out what use cases will help us realize the transformation and make it tangible. And the key use cases in the telco sector, I would say, 5G is the latest buzz in the networks domain. And as Telstra, we have more than 75% coverage across Telstra. We are the largest service provider here, and growth of 5G means a corresponding growth of intelligent routing, network optimization and monitoring, assuring quality of service use cases. So so these are some of the networks based use cases. If that isn't exciting enough, as more devices are coming into the network, we know that it has led to a sudden growth in security threats. We all hear about it. We get so many SMSs, that's all scam and so on. Now, just because this growth in security threat has and this whole 5G has led to that growth at an exponential pace, does not mean the talent and the skill set is already available there to preemptively solve these issues. So that's where AI and hyper-intelligent automation comes in. Along with these use cases, there is also other use cases like in supply chain, dealing with contracts and compliance processing, especially trying to give back so much time back to the business through these automations. There are other order management and activation use cases like what I talked about before, where we are enabling self-serve options to customers and the agents alike, therefore aiming to build that strong, exceptional customer experiences, which is the highlight of any transformation. So that's these are some of the exciting use cases that we are actually looking into.
Thank you, Siva. And Siva, you touched on two facets, just how you're applying it to the core of your business, the 5G, the security, and I think just by experience in Brillio also operating in the space, that compared to the 4G rollout, the 5G rollout, which works on line of sight, has been much more smoother because of the use of technology and so on and so forth. And also, I think the focus that you laid on use cases on the entire value chain or supply chain to create exceptional customer experience. So thanks for sharing that. Abhinav, the same question, that what are the rich use cases, and also you are on the helm of transforming the financial market, and financial market is quite rich based on the sub industries from superannuation to wealth to capital markets to retail. What are some of the use cases you are working on?
Yeah, so we actually we wanted to simplify the processes and segment it into 3 different components, and that actually took us a lot of time. Front office, middle office, and back office. So that really helped us to at least focus in one area at a time. Now, in front office, because our superannuation bank as well as contact center are the face of the business, so we decided to transform some of the use cases where analytics is involved, and we can really understand the customer demand, we can understand the customer response, and we can become more proactive. So, for example, during COVID, we decided to be more proactive instead of reactive. So instead of customer calling for any help, we collated all the master data we had for a particular customer, and we reached out to the customer and really helped them before the sentiment can actually come back to us. So that was something that really helped us in achieving a customer satisfaction at the broader enterprise level, and it really helped us to improve the productivity and efficiency. When we go towards the middle office is very much the cost adjustment and where most of the trades, public market are settled, and where most of the financial calculations are happening. And that's where we actually pull together a lot of use cases which requires reconciliation. So for example, when some kind of trade is actually lodged, we actually do all the reconciliation, and then behind the scene, we make sure that all the trade are actually locked before it goes out in the market again. So that kind of use cases really help us to do those kind of financial reconciliations where the market is actually fluctuating very quickly, but still we need to be on top of the data. So that's where I think the middle market played a very important role in terms of the use cases, and we are still improving because the accuracy of data is a priority in those use cases. Now, going back to the back office where the most of the invoices comes, we actually converted most of the invoices into a digital channel or digital platform where we decided to really segment the invoices into structured invoices, unstructured invoices, and started doing proof of concept where we use hyper automation technology to really try some of the tools that can extract the data from these invoices and really automate those processes. Across these three, back office, middle office, and front office, one of the theme that we decided to keep it consistent is compliance. Because at the end of the day, from the financial market perspective, we have to report to the governance body outside how we are managing the financials, which is the money of the customer. And I think that's very important because the compliance is the entire, I would say, the umbrella around which really help us to transform these three different segments of the use cases. So that's three areas where I think we have been focusing.
Thank you so much, Abhinav, and loved your frame of segmenting your use cases as well as your business into front office with customer focus, middle office where the trading, reconciliation, and the back office for your core businesses. And I think that's a great metaphor to also segment how things are working. Matt, back to you. Again, you started touching on it, but would love to know from your view and the customers that you're working in, some of the exciting innovation and use cases that you are super stoked about.
There's just so many of them, and I guess the thing that we live as an ethos at ServiceNow is that innovation doesn't start and stop with us. We see incredible innovation with our partners like Brillio and with our customers across the market. And like I mentioned up front, there's so many great examples, but just one where, to this theme, how do you launch entirely new business models or initiatives or projects quickly? I really like what Abhinav said about compliance there before and ensuring that governance is adhered to, and we firmly believe in that. A really good example recently of ServiceNow being used in an innovative way and a very rapid deployment way was at New South Wales Health at the when we were looking at vaccine management rollouts, as we all have been doing over the last year or so. We were able to partner with New South Wales Health and produce a solution that was designed and implemented in 10 days for vaccine management rollout across the millions of citizens in New South Wales. It wasn't only us, though, as ServiceNow that designed and created that solution. We worked really closely in partnership with the key stakeholders that were rolling out the solution. There was obviously a lot of dependencies. There was obviously a lot of complex architecture in place within New South Wales Health that we needed to work and operate within. And we're really proud of the fact that we were able to make that solution sing in a very short amount of time in a compliant and governed manner to ensure that when New South Wales Health needed to roll out vaccines to all of the citizens across the state, that it was done in a safe and importantly a really quick way. So I've been working in business application software for many years now, many years at places like SAP and Click Software, and it's very rare that I've seen a solution rolled out as quickly as we were able to do. And I think that speaks to the theme of this session is how do you innovate and how do you do it quickly in a way that doesn't disrupt the organisation in a negative way. So that's one of the many good examples. I'll try to filter through some more examples throughout the rest of the conversation.
Sure, Matt, and I think the example resonated because there were certain characteristics, which is innovation is not just about the great idea, but time to market becomes very important. 10 days flat launch, the impact it's creating, like reaching all the citizens of New South Wales, and the context in which it's getting launched, the COVID has, I think, humbled us all. So what you just said, and we see it across the pharmaceutical and the extended healthcare system, how it's changed the whole process of clinical trials to patient data management. It's a great example and very contextual. I think everybody probably would appreciate that. With that, I'm just gonna launch a poll, and Cherry, do keep me honest that it's showing up as a pop-up for the participants. Simple question. We just wanted to probe how do you see this space, and is this a priority for you? I'll pause for 30 seconds. Please take the poll so that we can also see the results real time. It's probably a very obvious question, but Siva, Abhinav, Matt, your views on this? It's a bit of a biased question because two of you have this as your core job.
Well, I might start. That might help, Saurabh, but it's absolutely a priority for ServiceNow. For those unaware, we release new versions of the ServiceNow platform twice a year. So we have 6 monthly release cycle across our thousands of customers worldwide. Our newest release, we name those releases after cities. Our newest release is the San Diego release. For anyone who's interested, there's plenty of online material about the new capabilities available in our San Diego release. But artificial intelligence and hyper-intelligent automation are front and center of that new release. We've created all sorts of new capabilities for organizations wanting to take advantage of that world's leading technologies, including an RPA automation tool that allows our customers to create their own robotic process automation capabilities within their organization quickly, seamlessly integrated into the platform. So it's absolutely a focus for us as an organization and something that will continue to get our investment.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think on Matt's point, I can add that ServiceNow is one of the key products which most of the organizations are using. And one of the key features which I really love about ServiceNow, which we have been also trying to really explore, is how we can integrate it with our hyper-automation capability so that we can manage our incidents and tickets better, for a simple example. And that really shifts also the opportunity, not only for everyone to come to one person as a single point of failure, but also gives them an opportunity that they can also raise the incidents and that can integrate easily with ServiceNow. So that integration capability really is driving end-to-end efficiency of managing those incidents. And I think ServiceNow is playing that very important role because API and everything is very well integrated with other systems and applications.
Awesome.
Well
Siva,
said,
while you
Abhinav.
speak, I flash the results as well.
So
go ahead, Siva.
just to add to that, and well said, Matt and Abhinav. I completely agree that ServiceNow plays a very big role in enabling organizations across, and especially with respect to AI and hyper intelligent automation. I should say, with the last so many years, most organizations have been trying to come out, at least the large ones are trying to come out of their legacy platforms. And to that extent, RPA, robotic process automation, has been the key enabler there. But that has enabled in making that data collection and the data digitization possible. But going forward, that's not enough, right? We need proactive decision making as we get that data, and all the organizations have to move towards that intelligent automation, with made possible by AI and the pace at which the whole technology growth is happening in terms of AI and automation. I should say, this is a very big priority, and we should not be actually playing catch up. We should be at the forefront. So that's again a big priority for Telstra too.
Well, thank you, Siva, Matt, Abhinav, for your reaction, and I think strong endorsement for the impact ServiceNow is creating in this space. Siva, to your point, the shift from solving today's problem to getting to predicting, being proactive, absolutely. And here are also the responses. So 90% of audience I see scattered between agree and strongly agree. 10% disagree. So absolutely, we need the balance of perspective and also people questioning it. By the way, just a reminder, if you have questions through this, keep typing them into the Q&A. We should be picking it up based on the time we have at the end. So I'm going to move forward. Good breather with the poll, having a pulse from all the attendees today. I'm gonna now focus on the fact that as an organization, you can have your priorities laid down, you can have the use cases identified, but where the rubber hits the road is that when you're looking at these use cases, what becomes very important is the culture of the organization. And the famous quote, I love it, culture eats strategy for breakfast, which also means that you have to start focusing on your operating model, how you're realizing this, and how do you drive the adoption with larger businesses and consumers. Abhinav, I'll start with you, and question for you that what are some of your learnings, challenges as a practitioners that you've seen, and how you're responding to it when it comes down to adoption, having the right ROI business cases to ensure the success? Because there's been a lot of learnings also as we have gone through these motions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we all go through those kind of failures where we have learned a lot of lessons, I guess what I would recall is a couple of different ways where I've experienced the business cases. Now, the first, I will talk about three different kinds. The first is to really think about from as if you have started a business, you're the owner, and there is one investor out in the market who is going to give you some money to spend it. And I think this is a good example because we never think in that way, or rather we take it for granted that the money is always available. Now, taking the fact that this money is now available from the investor, there are two questions. One is how we are going to sustain it for long term. And the second is, can we get the return of investment so that we can get the money back to the investor, or rather create a profit so that we can put it back into the business? With that mindset, I think that's a starting point, because that will help us to really drive the funding model which is either we take the money and really get the job started and really start evaluating all the processes. Or what we do is, the second option is, we actually start driving the business cases for each and every process as we automate. Now, that's also a good way to do that. And in this case, we just have to ensure that whatever money we are spending on automation is 100% recoverable, so that there is zero loss, but rather we define the tangible and intangible outcomes very clearly upfront before we start the automation. And the third and the final one is that we actually go just right in with 35 to 50 processes with a given amount of money with no due diligence done. In that case, we go through a lot more failures because we never know the money that has been given to us, how that has been proportionally aligned to the outcomes you want to achieve. So looking at these three different ways where the business cases actually run in the organization, I would say the first one is my favorite, where we are very much clear right from the beginning, given X amount of money, how we are going to create not only get the return of X dollars, but also create a profit out of it in terms of something that can be clearly defined. And I think that's the best way to run the business cases. Whether we run it centrally or we run it decentrally is, again, this very different way of running the business, and it varies across the organization.
Thank you, Abhinav. And there's a lot of power-packed insights in what you just said, but love the fact that large enterprises have to start thinking like startups and have to push the decision-making, break down the problems. So thanks for that. Siva, what are some of the challenges and learning from your perspective, specifically on change management and adoption of large-scale programs? What strategies you are adopting for success?
Yeah, sure, Saurabh. So when you look at it, everybody thinks technology will solve their problems. And they get very upset when data, AI, and the latest tools that we have don't provide them immediate fixes. Now, that's where the change management comes into the picture, where any tool or technology is only as strong as the people who use them. So having said that, the success to my strategies have been possible only when there is clear people buy-in, resulting in change in the underlying culture. And when there is alignment in mindsets, it is easier and obvious to understand not only the role of AI, but also where the ownership belongs, and breaking down the silos and eventually interconnecting large-scale programs, bringing the people together. So that's where we can really build the alignment between people, especially focusing on showing small wins all the time, so that you can then compound those small wins into the success of the large-scale programs.
Thank you. And Matt, very quickly, ServiceNow is all about value-based servicing of clients, which is like, you're looking at that. Some of the key things that you probably both educate your clients and also vary off in terms of critical success factors. Would love to hear your views.
Yeah, and I love this question because it really speaks to the way and my role within ServiceNow, which is making sure that we bring our customers and our partners together with our capabilities. And I think to the points that Siva and Abhinav have made, any large program in any organisation, small, medium or large, to be successful requires discipline. And discipline's not always the easiest thing to drive, but it's critical that these programs operate in a disciplined way. So within ServiceNow, we have a methodology that we work through with our partners and our customers to ensure that value is created. And it speaks to envisioning the success of a project, creating the value throughout the project, validating that value. So value can mean different things to different people, and that needs to be validated across the entire organisation, and then champion that success so that when you embark on the next project, the next program, whether it's for AI or any business initiative, that that you set yourself up for success from the start. But the key phrase that I would use is shared discipline across the organisation, the partners that organisation works with, and their underlying platforms and technologies. If those three things don't come together for a successful outcome, then yeah, many of these programs will not create the value, drive the value that's envisioned up front.
Thank you, Matt. And that brings me to the last rapid fire question, which is, as leaders, as custodian of the charters in your organization. So I'm going to start with you. What's some of your prediction wheel? How are you seeing the future evolving? How probably AI is going to play a role and the use cases that you are weaving through. So I would love to hear your perspective, then we'll go around.
Sure, Saurabh. So more than ever, everyone is becoming value driven, and this value is not one-sided, right? People do not just think about the value that they are creating for the company they work for, but also think about being valued and satisfaction that the company offers back in return. Now, when it comes to AI, most of the issues come around the investment side. Now, how much a company is investing in that AI development. So, I mean, this is given it's telco or be in the banking or the finance industry, this problem has been universal because the AI is not bringing the tangible benefit to show immediate results. So especially, when it comes to AI, the data scientists and the AI practitioners who are trying to build that value and showcase that value need that experimental mindset. And building that experimental mindset is a very key aspect in building the culture within the organization so that we can have AI adoption at scale. So not just about technology, but also trying to have problems and solutions that are looking at the latest latest developments in the AI space is another important aspect. I see, at least from my experience, quite a few organizations, because they have been using data and analytics, using specific type of algorithms and feeding into their business processes, they want to just continue. Of course, explainable AI, the responsible AI ethics, everything is actually a key thing that needs to be looked at before you can put things into production. But there is enough development that is there that actually enables people today to do all that responsible and ethical checks right at the development phase, and also showcase what are the risks that are available, that are going to be there in terms of these solutions. So I believe this is going to change as more and more people are getting comfortable, and as we build more talent in the space, and especially growing the data literacy in the leadership, in the top management is going to be very important as well. So the other trend, the current trend, I should say, the great resignation and the dynamic yet volatile nature of the job market, right? Like people are actually moving jobs because it's really super hot these days. And this is because organizations aren't responding fast enough. So to provide that engagement and the experiences that the employees are looking for, it's more about, are they working on the state of the art problems and solutions that can actually propel the company. So making them connect to the problem is another important aspect that organizations need to look at. So as enterprises become more intelligent, right? I mean, they are becoming more intelligent with not just the choice of technology, but also the talent development that's happening. So these trends are going to reverse. The great resignation and the volatile job market is the trend is going to reverse when the workforce are going to be enabled with these hyper intelligent automation and the self-serve capabilities that they are going to have with ample training. Especially that is very important because that will help them work on these latest technologies and connect with the problems they are solving.
Thank you, sir, for that. And I think also great that we were talking about technology. You also laid the focus on the talent that brings it to bear. So thanks for that. I know we're gonna be finish, and I wanted to leave some time for Q&A, but a bit of maybe the same question for you very quickly. That what are some of the technology and business trends you're looking at or you started investing on?
Yeah, thanks. I would quickly say three things. First is that for AI adoption across the organization, we need to start having something called, let's say, AI Academy, where every employee in the organization can actually start learning AI machine learning algorithms in a simplest possible way to really identify the use cases. Now, once that is achieved, I think the second is how do we really start building those machine learning models and really start doing those proof of concept so that we can scale the solution and start building the business case around that, because that will drive the ultimate project deliverables that is required from the machine learning perspective. And the third is how we are going to run it for longer term in terms of the machine learning ops, and how do we really look after the data that comes into the model, ingest it, and how we are going to manage it and govern it so that the output actually can really feed back into the model itself. So that is very important from the machine learning scalability perspective and sustainability perspective. And I think in order to encapsulate all these three, AI probably requires governance just to ensure that whatever we are doing, whatever we are developing inside the organization, I think that stays within the organization under ethics principle, because the data should not go out the organization. So for example, one of the biggest challenge in hyperautomation and AI is when we use some of the connectors, and those connectors are actually bidirectional. So the data can actually flow outside the organization if we use APIs to connect to the sources outside. Now, that's why I think the governance around the AI and how we're using the ethics principle is very important to encapsulate. And that's where the trend is going. How do we structure the program of work? How do we structure the model? And how do we structure the data governance? I think these three are going to really define how do we achieve this outcome. So it's a work in progress.
Thank you, Abhinav. And Abhinav, when you were saying that, I can't help but bring this example in that for a large pharmaceutical company we work with, and what you laid the focus on is that the problem solving has an ecosystem and a community access to that. For them, we had to build almost a Kaggle-like platform to bring the globally dispersed data scientists, data engineers to come together, work on the models, work on solving exactly some of the problems. So I think the collaboration and the ecosystem nature of this is also supremely important, and I think you touched on that. Matt, very quickly to you, what's some of the ServiceNow predictions of the future and how you're pivoting?
Yeah, and look, I'm glad that Siva brought up the people aspect of it and the talent aspect, and I love the idea about AI academies. One of the largest inhibitors I think we have to grow and realize our potential in the market is making sure that we bring people along on the journey that can bring unique perspective and experience to our market. We predict worldwide that we'll need about 250,000 people with job-ready ServiceNow platform skills in just over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's incredibly intimidating when you look at the size of that ecosystem today. So we're doing everything we possibly can to draw in knowledge, experience, skills from outside the traditional IT segments, and bring them into the ServiceNow ecosystem to the point I think that Abhinav made. Make sure that they're properly trained, or it might have been Siva, apologies for that. Make sure that they're properly trained, and we're doing that through things like our Next Gen program that identifies people, puts them through the right kind of training, and then has them job ready. A really good example of that locally was a piano teacher who's now a ServiceNow business analyst. And we've got hundreds of examples of that just in this region alone. So the talent piece, I think, is incredibly important. And again, a little bit like our AI investment, something that we're going to be diverting our resources towards solving.
Thank you, Matt. And with that, I think we don't have too much time left, but I want to spend some time on the Q&A. I've been monitoring some of the questions. Hopefully, some of them got answered through the process. But one question that probably we didn't touch upon through very explicitly, and Siva, I'm going to direct this to you and see if Abhinav also has to add anything. What's your key learning, how best to adapt existing teams as you're adopting new technology? It's a very relevant question because the pace of technology is changing. Your teams have to be enabled and also have to be pivoted on the next best thing. So Siva, your views on this?
To quickly answer, I would say, showcasing quick wins is the key way to is the way to actually cross this hurdle, if I may. That's the only way to generate interest and have people come towards, hey, there is a shiny object there, and make them think, hey, I want that too, right? So we need to actually get people's attention by showcasing these small wins and celebrating them. So as you celebrate more, I think people will be like, oh, there is something happening there. I should be getting on board, and we should get people on board like that. So that would be the way that I would think we should approach.
Sure. Thanks, Siva. And that probably brings us to the end. And I wanted to thank the audience on behalf of Brillio, myself, and the whole panelists. Thank you, panelists, for your insightful perspective, the practitioner's view, what's happening. And I think there is a lot of nuggets for us to take forward. Cherry, Svetlana, I would love so that you can close this one for us.
Thank you, Saurabh, and thank you all indeed for sharing these great insights and for being so generous with your time today. Just a quick reminder to look out for an email within the next 2 hours with links to download today's material. And if you would like to learn more about Brillio, you can request a demo or book a meeting with them directly by clicking widgets, request demo, and book a meeting. We'd also like your feedback, so if you could take a minute to answer our very brief survey that will pop up on your screen at the end of the session, that would be very much appreciated. On behalf of Brillio and Marcus Evans webinars, we would like to thank you all for joining us today, and we do hope that you will be listening in at our next webinars. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.